I will say a little bit in German and then we start over. Hi liebe Leute, hier aus Unterföhringen live heute zu unserer Show hier bei EMAX im Kanal und es sind schon einige Leute da, 34 Leute sind schon da und warten darauf, dass wir unser Interview starten. Wie ihr seht, haben wir jetzt zwei Gäste. Einmal den Christopher, der das Bild von Chris erraten hat bei unserem Facebook-Gewinnspiel und natürlich unseren Star der Show, Chris Barnes. Hi Chris, hi Christopher.
Hi Manuel. Hi Christopher.
So, how's everything in this weird situation worldwide? Chris.
Oh, yeah. That's both of us, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yes,
So I said Christopher.
It's strange. If you'd have said, 3 months ago that this would be what the world looks like right now, I would have thought it was unimaginable, and that there's no way that they would shut the whole world would shut down like this. But there's been a lot of good things about it too. I got to spend a lot more time at home. My boys are seniors in high school, and so they're getting ready to go off to college, and so being able to be around them all the time, that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. So your wife loves it that you're at home.
Well, I didn't say she loves that I'm at home. I just said that she's already planned out the entire 21 season for me. So I have all my travel planned. She's going to make sure I get some time away.
Yeah, that's important. So at the moment we are around 40 people watching. Christopher prepared some questions for you that he wants you to ask, and I will let you talk. So, Christopher.
So first, hello to everybody. I'm a little bit nervous. I have to, because Franz, you're one of my idols. I have to say that. First, hello from Salzburg, the beautiful Moses city. Big thanks to Manuel for making everything happen like this. He is really good, and he kept us busy the last few days with his streams. It's really good to watch. A lot of questions who make sense with the whole bowling things. And yeah, I start with my question. My first question is, in your opinion, how much will affect this whole COVID-19 situation the future of professional bowling?
I think that's a really good question. It's a good place to start, and I'm not sure we really know, because for the first time, the PBA is owned by Bolero, which is, they own the AMF centers. And so, their overall economic health will affect the PBA as well. I think for now that basically we've only delayed a few tournaments. The TV shows for 3 of the tournaments from the World Series, the Masters, and then the playoffs. And I don't know this for myself, but I think that they're all going to get pushed back to, say, August, September, October, depending on how things go. Tentatively, probably hold them all together, and so you'll finish the season from there. And then really, you have the PBA League tentatively again right now in the summer, but that may get pushed back as well. And then that's really all there is of the season that then we can get moved back into January again, and hopefully by then the world is relatively back to normal. Although I think this will change how a lot of things are done for a long time.
Yeah, I think so. Manuel, willst du das übersetzen?
Nein, der Julian macht es. So Julian in the chat will translate everything pretty much. So he tries his best to translate everything so that we can get it in English flu and you don't have somebody talking a weird language for you.
Would you like me to speak in German? Would that be better?
No,
yeah,
everything is
nice.
It would be funny when you speak German.
I only know about 3 words, so it would be a very, very short conversation.
Oh, yeah. but 3 words is more than most other ones.
But none of them are good words. They're the ones you taught me, Manuel.
Oh, no, not good. So the World Series is pretty much not done. It's still some TV finals need to play it, right?
Yes. We have 3 shows that are set that did not get to bowl the finals. The 3 animal patterns from the World Series. So cheetah, I believe it was cheetah, scorpion, and shark or something. The others.
So they had to leave Vegas and then come back when it's rescheduled, right?
Yeah, my guess, like I said, my guess is when the Masters gets rescheduled, that they will schedule those shows, the Masters, and then the playoffs, and they'll do them all in a row, wherever that is. That might be in Reno.
Okay.
But a chance combine the production like that, which is kind of what we used to do with the PBA to really make costs a lot more effective, and they can put it all together because the playoffs. It was scheduled to be 4 separate events and stretched out, and they might still do that, but that allows the point list to be complete, determine who the top 24 is, and then move on from there.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you think Weber Cup will happen?
I do think it will happen. We've been in touch. It has been delayed from June. There's 2 possible dates that they're discussing in the fall. Of course, all of that's still tentative. The biggest problem is for Sky Sports. Everything is getting pushed into the fall, and
I know.
So I mean they'll have limited TV dates. The PBA will have limited PBA dates for our shows, and hopefully they don't conflict, and so that we can make it all happen. But I have heard that they're working together, which is fantastic because bowling does not always do that.
Yep.
And so I think we're going to find a way to work together. Obviously, if they can, Sky Sports and Fox have some relationship as well, and so I think that it's possible that I think it's very likely that it will happen just later towards fall and winter.
Okay. Guten Abend an alle im Chat hier. Sebastian ist da, Carsten, Sandro, Maxi, Uwe, Nathalie, Regina, Bruno, Felix, Olli, Servus an alle. Wenn ich jemanden vergessen habe, nicht böse sein. Also, um noch mal kurz zu erklären, das ist Christopher. Christopher hat unser Gewinnspiel gewonnen und er hat jetzt die Chance, ein paar Fragen an Chris zu stellen. Und da fahren wir jetzt weiter fort.
Okay, the next question is a question. It is from my heart because it will affect the youth bowling. Because I asked the question, what's your opinion on this whole Olympic drama? Why they still refuse to make this amazing sport Olympic after all the effort of the bowling community? Because there's a lot of money, I think, and the youth, they see it's Olympic, and I think we can get more. In Austria, it's a difficult situation because nobody wants to play bowling in the summer or something like that. If they make it Olympic, maybe they go more in the bowling alleys or something.
Yeah, I think that certainly being in the Olympics would grow bowling worldwide. In the United States, not so much, and so you get some pushback from the general public, but the people that are in charge of bowling, I think, understand the impact worldwide that being Olympics would have. And obviously they're working very hard at it. I think some things have been our structure, kind of how our world championships are structured, some of that, which is stuff I've learned just recently. And I think Andy Oram is just now kind of taken over the World Bowling Tour. And I think he is much more on board with how some of those structures and how some of those things need to work to help us, aside from the obvious thing, winning and sponsor.
There's so much money involved in bowling. Isn't it enough?
I would guess that they're saying no. I don't know. It's pretty confusing to me, some of the things that did get voted in.
Yeah, same as me.
Right, but I don't know what platforms they have outside of the United States. We don't see some of these things outside of it. My 25-year-old self would have, believed that if it didn't happen in the United States, it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. But now I understand that the impact worldwide and host countries and some of those things that come into play. It's hard for me to believe they get more ticket sales, more advertising dollars for some of those.
Okay.
Andy can he can make a lot of that happen, and he can also help set up the structure a little bit to make it more, Olympic friendly. So
Okay.
we don't have to make adjustments and things like that to fit into their, their program and their structure.
Okay.
Okay.
Just a little bit quote
Yeah,
here to the viewers. Sometime, wenn hier das Bildschirm ein bisschen springt, keine Angst, das ist nur irgendwie macht sich da mein Skype ab und zu selbstständig. Also alles funktioniert, also manchmal wird es groß, manchmal klein, also keine Sorge. So the thing is, I have pretty much the same question that Christopher had on my question was a little bit different. Do you think bowling will get Olympic, and does bowling need the Olympic Games? That's pretty much the same what you say, because I don't think that the USA needs bowling in the Olympics, but worldwide will need it.
I agree. I don't know that the United States needs it per se, but that being said, the entities that really make bowling go round in the United States are largely ball manufacturers.
Yep.
And so they understand better than anyone that if bowling grows worldwide, which it would certainly grow massively worldwide by being in Olympics, that would help the ball manufacturers, and that way bowling does end up growing. So the general public in the United States doesn't necessarily know, but yes, having seen how the Olympic committees work in different countries and the benefits they get by being part of the Olympic program, yeah, I mean, bowling ultimately does need to be in the Olympics, and I think it will happen, but unfortunately not. It's not going to happen while I'm still viable, which is probably already past my best years. But hopefully within the next 20 years.
Yeah, hopefully.
Japan was a really good shot. It's pretty disappointing we missed there.
Yes, it is. And we put a lot of effort in. The bowling community put a lot of effort in. So, yeah. Christopher?
Yeah, Richard T say because you say make it more popular and more sponsorship. Richard T say the last interview with Manuel, maybe to put gambling or bet sites in, maybe that make bowling more popular. What's your opinion at that? I don't think so, because darts growing a lot the last few years because a lot of sponsored bet sites go inside and make it popular. You think would that help bowling?
Well, I think anytime people are invested in the outcome, it makes it more popular. Is that one of the things that have helped American football is fantasy football. So you have all these players, not necessarily invested in which teams win, but what players play well. And now instead of only watching your favorite team, I'm not only watching Arsenal play, I'm watching all of them play because I want to see who scores what goals, touchdowns, what have you. And so I do think, you have to have some safeguards because obviously that brings in the opportunity for cheating and things like that because bowling doesn't pay millions and millions of dollars.
Yep.
But I do think the more people that are invested in the outcome, the much bigger and more dedicated those fans will be to the outcomes.
Yep. Okay. And it brings money into the sport.
It does. And, whether it's from DraftKings or some betting sites or, I think ultimately, I think that will be a sign that bowling has really reached the next level is when gambling wants to be part of bowling.
Yep.
Okay. Can I next question?
Yeah, sure.
Do you ever had a time in your career where you thought about quit bowling or you struggled with yourself and your game?
Well, not that I necessarily quit, but I certainly was not very happy with how things were. And obviously the most recent time, once I had back surgery, I didn't know if I would ever make it back.
Yeah, in Japan, right? When I remember, you have your back surgery and then you go playing Japan.
Yeah, I made the show like 3 months later.
Yeah, I know. And I say, well, that's a man.
But yeah, that center is, for whatever reason, that center is it's my home away from home. So habits because I wasn't really ready, and so for the next year and a half, I bowled really bad, by my previous levels of expectations, and you know, it wasn't much fun. You know, and once you get to this age, I'm 50 now. All the guys are younger. They all have higher rev rates, and you go through some stretches where things don't go like you want. And I'm not very patient, as Manuel knows. So I don't deal with my own failures very well. And so this season, even, you know, I had a couple of weeks where I made the shows, and all that did was push my level of, hey, I can still be that guy. And then the next 4 or 5 weeks didn't go that way at all, and so it was pretty disappointing. And so I have a lot of work to do, and this time off doesn't help.
Yeah, but it's like you seed your motivation with success, and then it comes down to fail, and then you succeed again, and then you get motivated more. But isn't it difficult when you do it for a living? Because at the moment it's not your hobby. Like us, it's our hobby, and we do it, and it's your job at the end of the day. And I think it put a lot of pressure on you, right?
Of course, I think anytime you're that invested, but really anything you're really passionate about, I mean the ups are better, and the downs are lower. Yeah. And so, yes, we get paid, but to say that it's more important because we're professionals versus someone whose main passion in life is bowling, I think it's very similar. You know, that you feel everything gets felt more, and so those flows go with the profession and the stress, and you know, because it's the main source of income, of course, it plays into stresses and taking care of your family and things like that.
Yep. Okay. So, Christopher.
So, my last question, then I'm let Manuel speak to you because I'm busy. Do you have some tips for us on focusing on the game and not get too lost into many thoughts in the moment?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that one changes all the time. You know, I guess the first thing that I've learned over the years is you know when you're feeling anxious or adrenaline, and you know everything's moving so fast. So I've learned some breathing tips over the years to help get, you know, quiet all the things that are going on around, you know, and that doesn't, everybody goes, well, it's different on TV, but anytime you're nervous, if you have to strike to win your team game, you still feel the same things that we feel on TV. You know, it seems like it's more because it's on TV and there's more people watching, but the feelings are the same. So, you know, some really simple breathing things, but taking a deep breath for 4 and holding it, and then taking another one on top of it will do a lot to help ease that initial feeling. And then after that, for me, a quick run through of what I'm trying to accomplish. You know, okay, I'm standing on board 25. I'm looking at board 14, and I'm trying to roll it, or I'm trying to get around it. And you run through the plan real quick. But at that point, then I would just revert back to a process thought. So the only thing is, okay, step, push, or step, stay tall, but only one swing thought, and then eliminate all the rest of it. You know, this is to win. I need this. Hopefully I don't miss. Oh, the last time I left a 4-pin, or, you know, what if I don't do, or what if I win and then I get the trophy over there? There's all these other kinds of things. Hey, the guy in the third row has a sign and he's holding it up. There's all these crazy things that have gone through my mind at different times. And really, if you just have to keep it down to one simple thought and keep your mind occupied. For me, at least, the whole going blank, that doesn't really work. So I have to keep my mind occupied with one thought, work that process, and then make the shot.
Yeah, that's pretty much what Richard Tees also said. Think on one thing and then do it.
Yeah, I asked this question because my wife said I have to ask this because my first 300 was the luckiest one ever. I was at the last shot, my hand like this, non-stop shaking. What I do now, I have to make this. I want to make it. She said, you have to ask him how you can stop this. It's always the 12th frame you suck.
Yeah, and what it is, it's all the things that we put on ourselves. I think all of us remember our first 300, our first chance at 300, because literally everyone feels that same thing. And the only thing about being on TV, it's one of the few things that recreates how nervous you can be in that moment. But we all feel the surge of adrenaline. But, the worse it gets is sometimes it's because we're always thinking about outcomes. Mm-hmm. And the more we think about that stuff on the backside, creates more pressure.
Yep.
In the end, sometimes I've gone, there's millions of people watching, da-da-da-da-da-da. And then you remember that, hey, none of them actually care.
Yeah, nobody. You care by yourself.
Yeah, I care way more. At the end, if I fail, they go, oh yeah, he choked, and then oh yeah, he won, and then they're going to go out and they're going to do things that they want to do for themselves. So making up all kinds of things about, oh, my buddy's going to make fun of me, or those kind of things. It's really about keeping it forward and really what it really is. And in the end, it's still walking. You're going to walk about 5 meters. You're going to hit a target that's about 5 meters away. And if you do that part, the rest of it will probably take care of itself.
Yep. So, Christopher.
Okay. Thank you a lot, Manuel, to make this happen. Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Christopher. Great questions.
Thank you.
So,
have
I don't
a nice
know about
time.
that hammer towel back there, but the rest of it I think is great.
Sorry, I have a hammer t-shirt also. But I'm not so sure I like hammer anymore. The whole Brunswick thing is a little bit sour for me.
Well, I have some really, really good balls.
I know.
When you get a chance, so.
Proof and infrared, 229.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, Christopher.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. Danke fürs Dasein und ich hoffe, dir hat's gefallen.
Dankeschön. Ich hoffe, ihr war anständig.
Ja, freilich. Gut, bis dahin. Tschüss.
Good day.
All right, thanks, Christopher. Have a good.
Oh, sorry, I was a little fast. Just a second. So I need to place.
That's what she said.
So, finally, we can come through some questions here in the chat. There's a lot of chatting going on. And Robert asked something. Do you come back to Munich for demo day or something like that?
I think there's a lot of, honestly, right now, nobody knows.
Yeah.
What the plans will be. So I sure hope so. Obviously Dreamville is one of the great venues, really in the world to have championship tournaments at. So hopefully we have a reason to come there as well. But even if we don't, I have a feeling, Wes Pye was a big European sales guy. He loves Europe, and I think he wants to grow things over there as well. So, along with the inevitable changes in the business, I would anticipate that we would be back over there again. And I sure hope so.
Me too. Maybe for Euro Challenge, I don't know if it will clashes again with World Series over the years, because when World Series moved to March, it's pretty difficult for the Euro Challenge to get professionals in. And
for sure.
But maybe the summer swing, we call it in Europe, when it's Madrid, San Marino, and Munich. But maybe we will figure this out. I'm not sure. Yeah, that's pretty much the question Marcel asked. He asked if you come back to Euro Challenge. I think this is depending on the schedule of the PBA, right?
Yeah. I mean, moving forward, I don't think a lot of the World Bowling Tour events will be PBA titles. So they're going to have to be, the scheduling will have to be separate for that to work.
Euro Challenge is no more in the World Bowling Tour because with the handicap, they decided to stay in the European Tour. But it's it is what it is. So,
and for the most part, the World Bowling Tour events won't be part, as the new owners have taken over, they've kind of separated from that.
It has to be.
Had more of their own tournaments, and really it probably does, because I with the World Bowling Tour formats and certainly EBT formats, you don't want two separate prize funds. So the handicap part is part of that, and the PBA is kind of drawn their line in the sand there, and so they'll probably be separate. In the big tournaments, I think guys will still come over to bowl much like they did before. They were PBA titles.
What I see is that when I played my first World Series in 2009 or 10, it was pretty much open in the PBA to get. You have to be a member and then you sign in for the tournament, especially World Series. And now they pretty much closed it again.
It's very close to that, yeah. It's a pretty closed field. You have to be a PBA member.
Yeah, but that was before also. But you have to be PBA member. But I could just sign in when I'm a PBA member. But now they closed it. Oh, your dog, right?
Yeah, my puppy. We have two. This one's Skylar. The other one's Brooklyn. So
cool.
She's a good one. But yeah, they've gone to one squad. We've had so much trouble with multiple squad tournaments getting squad equity.
Okay.
And I don't think it's not because they can't get lanes, the same, but you can't get guys to play them close to the same from squad to squad. And so one squad is pretty consistently, ends up really beating the other one by a lot. And, whether it's urethane or it's just strategies, it just has been, it's been really difficult. So they're trying to go to one squad as much as possible. And so when you have the World Series at a place like South Point, which has, it's as big as Dream Bowl is, then they did reduce the field a little bit, but went to one squad overall.
Okay. But you do on your tournaments, in the PBA, you have A squad, B squad, C squad still.
A few, just the U.S. Open now. And a couple of tournaments at the very beginning of the year, but only the U.S. Open is 3-squad tournament. Basically, USBC run tournaments are multi-squad.
Okay.
Other than that, there's no multi-squad tournaments left. We had 2 at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
We had the one at the ITRC in Arlington, where the Team USA trains, a very small center, and then one in Oklahoma, which I don't know if we'll be going back there anymore either, actually. It's only a 24-laner.
Okay. So we also have some questions from Facebook, from our Facebook page.
All right.
There was one. What solid ball out of the 900Global line do you recommend for players with 13 to 50 miles per hour for heavy oil?
The volatility was a really good ball for us this year. When they started adding the few places we bowl at with a really good surface, like say at the ITRC, I made the show and I used a volatility on that longer left lane pattern. And so that's been our best really heavy oil ball in a little while. Really like that one.
Yeah, it's pretty close to, isn't it similar with the Dream On back in the days?
Yeah, it's probably much closer to that, and I think we liked it much more like that as well. To me, I actually feel like that cover is a little stronger than even the Dream On used to be, which would match up because oils now are thicker than they were 5 years ago.
Yeah,
so.
That's true. That's true. Then that's a funny question. What did you think when you see Jacob Butroff the first time?
Well, I've seen a lot of unusual styles over the years. And you watch it for a little while and you go, wow, how does he make all that work? But then it comes off his hand. And that's the part I watch more than how they get there sometimes is what it looks like after he throws it. And, the amount of revolutions he creates and his ability to basically open up lanes and then repeatedly strike a lot.
Yeah.
The first time you didn't know he could strike a lot all the time. You thought, oh, well, I mean, he had a really good day. Well, he's had a lot of really good days now.
Yeah,
and there's no accident. And that's probably the biggest thing is no matter how unique you are, if you can keep doing it day after day after day, it's no joke, and he can strike with anybody.
But it's fascinating that he plays conventional, right?
Yeah, I don't know if he goes all the way in, but he comes really close to that. It's really way more about his double jointed wrist and thumb, that he can get it in an angle that basically none of us can.
Yeah, that you cannot you cannot copy that pretty easy.
No, that's physiological. 99.5% don't even have the ability to get their hand in that position. So the fact that he can do that, the scary thing for him, because you're really extending the range and things, is injuries. Will be the tell for him. He's going to be great as long as he's healthy. If he ever gets injured, there's so many unique moving parts. It probably won't go very well once if he ever has an injury.
Then we had in our last stream, we had an interesting question, because I put a name inside what most of the PBA pros think is the best non-PBA bowler in the world. And what do you think?
Best non-PBA player. So you're talking about around the world?
Yes. I put a name in, but
currently, or say over time. I mean, there's guys like Thomas Lee Anderson who's been great for a long time. Timmy actually joined for a little while, but had a great resume, but didn't end up on tour. Guys like Lasse Lintola.
But when you say it now, let's say the last 5 years.
The last 5 years. I know I'm going to get this wrong because I'm not.
It's not a quiz or something. It's just your opinion. It's because I told the Korean guy Bokum Choi.
Yeah.
There's
several Koreans have been in play over there. They've been very dominant on the world scene. The whole Singapore women's team. Although I guess they did join. Actually, I think to bowl.
Yeah, they are awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they've set up a program there to identify players at an early age, and they're doing the right things, and obviously it's paid off with. They've had one of the top, if not the best team.
Complete team, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, but they would be the team of the 2010s, probably for that decade.
Yep.
From the guys, trying to go through, and I know I'm missing a couple off the top. Tell me who your name is.
Bokum Choi was the.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Of course, he's in that conversation for sure. I was trying to think who else. Who do you feel like is the best European that's not on tour right now that should be?
In my opinion, he joins pretty shortly. That was Carsten Hansen, but when I see European that is not on tour at the moment.
Yeah, Carsten's, he's been out there a few times.
Yeah, now he is, yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
That's pretty difficult because it should be a Swede or a Finn. Pretty much because there are so many Swedes and Finns that are not pretty much on tour.
The Swedish league is a very good environment, a very high level playing field that kind of prepares you for that kind of pressure and high level.
Yeah, when you see Markus Wetterberg, he's maybe technically not the best, but scoring wise, he's pretty good, and he knows what he do. And so, yeah, there's so many, when you see Ballmaster Open, how many Finns and Swedish players are playing. This is so wide. I can't name an European guy who's in that level. I would say Tobias Birding is from Germany, is pretty good, but he is in the PBA.
Absolutely.
He plays the PBA. But
he does, yeah, sort of. He comes over for the World Series, pretty much.
Yeah.
I expected to see more of him than I've seen so far. I thought he would be over and playing. Once I saw him in the World Cup in Poland.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's
when you play, you won against him.
Yeah, 6 years ago, and he was the best player that week.
Yeah.
I beat him in the 2-game match, but he was the best player. I thought he would be on tour by now. He was pretty young then,
Yeah.
and maybe we will. But life works a lot of different ways. So we'll see what happens there. But
Yeah, Maximilian brings in William Svensson, the brother of Jesper. Do you know him?
oh, really? Yeah, I don't. I haven't seen him play, but
He plays
very
two-handed.
much if at all.
He plays
That's a good
two-handed
start.
with the right. He won the European Youth here, or European Men's. European Men's he won here in the singles.
Yeah,
And
I've heard about him, so I know he's good, but
Yes.
but I haven't got to see it myself.
Yeah, and there's Sandro brings in Antonio Florentino, an Italian guy. He won some things.
Oh yeah. No, I've heard about him too. There's some guys really talking about him as being a chance to be the next guy too.
Yeah,
For sure.
that brings me to another question that I put on my sheet of paper. Who will be the next big thing in bowling from the rising stars like Kai Sherman, Chris Prater, Simonson? So when I think it's a new generation after Belmonte from age-wise, because when you see Simonson,
Yeah.
he's pretty young. He's I think 21 or something. Prater is not at all. Sherman is not at all. What do you think? Who will be the next?
Well, Simonson is the most versatile of the bunch. He can literally play anywhere on the lane. If he can keep the other parts of life out of the way, I think he has the best chance. Sherman's really good. Jesper is in that group as well.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I would consider EJ just a little bit older, even though he's not that much older than that group.
Yeah, he's pretty much in the same group, but he's already there. He's already a top guy.
Yeah, he is, and really Anthony is too.
Yes, he won. I don't know, 2 majors.
He's got 2 majors. He's got 7 titles, and it seems like he should have more because he bowls on those shows against Belmonte a lot.
Yeah,
He's making a ton of major championship shows, and that's a pretty good indicator of where you're at in the big scheme of things. When the formats get longer and the patterns get harder, and he's still there,
that shows a
that's
lot.
a pretty good play. Yeah, and Jesper, obviously he has his devastating strike ball when he gets figured out. He went through a little lull there for a while, but he seems like he's back as well. I think Prater and Sherman are going to have a little tougher go at it. I mean, Sherman still doesn't have a singles title, but I do think most people think he's going to be one of the guys. But I think he'll be on the fringe of it more so.
The thing with Sherman is he's so popular because of the YouTube channel. He has such a big following base and fan movement, I would say. And he has pretty much the fans behind him because the people know him. Also, Brett is not the typical bowling player. He's pretty small, but he plays it really good.
Brad is the everyman's pro. I mean, he's actually been a pro for 8-9 years now. And I mean, and nobody knows because his first 5 or 6 years didn't go very well. Yeah. Now he's only really been bowling on tour for 4 or 5. But, he's a guy that's basically, he was a first-team All-American in college, so it's not like he doesn't have talent. But by tour standards, he's a middle-of-the-road guy, rev rate-wise, probably, below the road at this point. He didn't have anything special that stood out. His ball didn't hook a lot, and he just worked himself into being a top 20 player. Other than Prater, probably the most improved player for 2 years in a row, which is super hard to do.
Yeah.
He jumped from not really being a top 50 player to being a top 25 player or top 30, and then he made the next jump into being a top 20 player. He makes a lot of finals. He's been really impressive. That being said, obviously his ceiling is lower than somebody like Kyle Sherman, who has a higher rev rate and a little more natural athletic ability. Yep. That doesn't mean he'll be the best player because Norm has made a 35-year career out of not having anything that stands out as being, well, there's no way anybody else can do that.
Yep.
He's just learned how to be better at a bunch of different things. And that's where Brad could fit in long term. But obviously, the more power you have, the more opportunity you have to be a dominant player. We'll see about Prather. Prather struggled a lot like Brad, and then all of a sudden, he turned himself into a top 10 guy a couple of years in a row. And really, the second year when you do that, that's kind of the prove it.
Yeah.
Andrew Henderson had the one big year, wasn't able to follow it up since then. And Prather did it. He's done it a couple of years in a row now, and it seems like he's here to stay.
Yep. I like his game. Me personally.
He's got some unique things, and I think really there's two ways to make money on tour, and that's to either do one thing better than most everyone else, at least be in the top 5 of that one thing, or do a bunch of things and be a super accurate shot maker. And your length of your career can be longer if you're that shot maker kind of versatility guy, but it makes it tougher to win on a regular basis, on those opportunities when you have your thing.
How do you see the female bowlers? What do you think about PWBA? Who's the best at the moment?
Well, I think Shannon O'Keefe has been the best over the last few years. She's same kind of thing. She's worked herself into great shape, and she's putting the time in, and she's put on a couple-year run here where she's made herself the best player on the PWBA tour. You combine that with Liz. Liz is moving kind of like me as far as towards the back end of her career. She's had a little bit of knee trouble, and so that's made it tougher for her to be as dominant as she was for the last decade, basically.
Yeah, but when you see, we talk about this in the last streams, when you see like Daria Kovalova, she's pretty much not the strike gamer. She's very precise. The Ukraine girl, and then when you see like Birgit Pöppler, same thing. And then you have players like Daria, who's revved up like a man.
Yeah.
She could strike more and use the lane more, but is it the same breakdown in the PWBA compared to the PBA? It's different because the ref rate is lower.
There's not as much, and once upon a time, Daria would have been in kind of like Leanne Holzenberg, where she could just wait and not have to be so good on the fresh and just wait for it to break down, and then once it did, just take advantage of it. But now they bowl on so much fresh, and the patterns on the ladies tour have been so flat and so hard that it's really played against somebody like Daria's, where her true advantages would lie. It almost works against the power because the lane patterns have been so hard at different times. And so, the learning curve has been a little longer for Daria. I think she is certainly one of the players that could be great long term. And then you still have the players like the Singapore, the whole team basically. Shayna Ong gets the most attention, and rightfully so. Her and Sherry Tan are great. Shannon Blahowski is still a dominant force on the left. You have Shannon O'Keefe. You have Liz Johnson, of course. Stephanie Johnson. And Adasha. She's become a, it looks like last year was her breakthrough year. So she has, she can build on that. Then she's going to be one of the players for the future. You have Diana, you have Verity, and Daria. And those three obviously are have a lot of potential, and they can all be great players.
Yeah, women bowling getting bigger and bigger now. When I remember like 10 years ago or 12, 15 years ago, when pretty much Kelly Kulik was one of the few...
there was no tour.
Yeah, there was no tour. They have to compete on the same with the men.
Yeah.
So I come here to a couple of questions in chat now. What are your goals for your future career?
Well, I'm eligible for the PBA 50 tour now, so I can bowl a little bit out there. Maybe bowl on Senior Team USA. We'll see how that goes. But I'd still like to win a few more titles, and the Masters is still, still on my bucket list.
To make the Grand Slam, right?
Yeah, that makes the Grand Slam, and at least right now, that would get me to 20 titles as well. I'd still like to get to 22 overall. That seems to be getting harder and harder all the time. Between Belmonte not sharing very much, and then all the young guys that keep getting better and better, like you mentioned before, it doesn't leave so many opportunities. But that's still out there for me.
How, out of your perspective, how good is Jason Mahaney?
Oh, I've gotten to see. I didn't get to see Earl in his prime, and I got to bowl against Mark Roth and Marshall Holman at the end of their careers. But I did get to see Walter and Parker when they were at their best, and obviously Norm. And Jason is more. It's different, somewhat format, but no one has made the amount of major TV shows like he has. Nobody's been consistently in that range. I had a pretty good run, but I was never as good in the majors like that. Mm-hmm. I think I made 1 out of 4 shows there for a while, and that was the highest. Earl, Anthony, and I were like the highest as far as how many shows you made per tournament. But I think Jason's over 50% major TV shows, which is
crazy.
That's an astounding record. And so I get it. He doesn't have as many titles as those guys. He won't get to bowl enough tournaments to probably ever get to those kind of numbers. But to won what he's won in the time frame he's won, his career is probably much closer to, say, Mark Ross as far as how many years he's bowled and how many majors he's bowled. And as dominant as Mark Roth was, he never put together something like that. Yeah. It won't be easy to equate across the eras, other than there's been majors, the same amount of majors mostly through those eras, although now we have more majors on the PBA Tour than they did back then.
Yeah. And this comes to the next question from Bruno. He asked, what do you think about the two-handed style, and have you ever considered changing from one hand to two?
Oh, I've considered it. I'm just not able to do it. It's difficult to do, and you have to create a lot of foot speed. And the biggest thing for me, once I had back surgery, my right leg is not as strong as it used to be, and you have to be really, really strong. Which I've always been pretty slow feet, and used that right leg to push to create the speed and power that I have. And I can still do that now again with one hand, but to do it with two, your feet have to move much quicker. The torque on my back, I wouldn't last very long doing it. But that being said, my 2 sons are twins, and one's left-handed and the other one's two-handed. So his rev rate's about 500, and when he throws strikes, they're pretty impressive. They're more impressive than mine.
Okay, and your other son with one hand?
Yes, but his rev rate's about 400 as a left-hander.
So that's also pretty good.
Yeah, he doesn't bowl as much though. He's not that interested.
So they have the mom's talent.
Yeah. And fortunately, her looks too. So.
Then Sebastian asked, why is Marshall Kent not that successful? He starts pretty fast, and then he do a lot of finals, but he doesn't.
He hit a little bump in the road, and I don't know. There's lots of things that happen in life. Obviously, it's not a talent issue.
Yep.
When you watch Marshall, though, his swing changes more than any other really high-level player I've ever really come across. I mean, you'll see it where it falls right in, and it's really close, and then it'll be like over here, and you go, "Wow, he's not bowling very well." And then he led the U.S. Open. He ended up getting beat on the show by Frankie. That was the one where Frankie shot 300. But I think Marshall's success right now is he's in his mid-20s. He's had a lot of success. Yep. And, the things he's doing with life, you have to start balancing all that. When you're still living at home and things are easy, it changes when you start, he's moved to Las Vegas, he's building a house, he's doing some other things. And there's a lot of other distractions that keep you away from putting in as much time and practicing as much. And I think over time he'll get that kind of all sorted out and get settled. And once he does that, you'll start seeing that level move up again.
Okay. So Thomas, die Frage, die können wir ihm irgendwann selber stellen, dem Sean Resch, because Thomas asked if you know why Sean Resch changed to 900Global, but I think we do this when we have Sean here as a guest. He can answer by himself.
Yeah, it would be unfair for me to say what it's in his mindset, but I know that Global made him a really good offer. We have a relationship going back a few years, and so he reached out about it. But and I could confirm that this was a good place to be, and that from a ball reaction standpoint and those kind of things as well, that he would have plenty of options and more angular options, and that would keep him happy. And I think he wanted to be there for life originally, but things change, bosses change, circumstances change, and this big consolidation, it's not the same company that he signed on with 15 years ago.
Yeah, that's true.
And that happens.
The whole industry changed with all what's going on the last 15 years. So
we all have bosses, like you say. It changes whether you're at a bowling center or with distributors or with
that's business.
All and bosses that change, and when somebody else gets in charge, sometimes it's not the same thing as it used to be. Whether they don't like you or you don't like them, it doesn't really matter in the end. You have to go a place where you're wanted, and ultimately that's ultimately the answer, is that Global really wanted to have him there. He's the next guy, and he's becoming the face of the brand for Global, and that's the right move for him.
That brings me to another question. What was asked on Facebook? What were the reasons why you changed from 10 years at Columbia 300 to 900Global a couple of years ago? Was it pretty much the same thing? Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, I mean, the company when I first signed on, they were in San Antonio, which is relatively close to, within hours of my home. It had been the same place. You had the same people work there forever, the same bosses, all those things. It was part of a longer, big-term plan. And over time, it moved to Kentucky, and then it was purchased by EBI and different bosses and different things, and it just wasn't the same. It wasn't the same company, and it wasn't really the right fit. I think it wasn't the right fit for me, and so this gave me a lot more chance to be involved in the ball testing and ball development, a potential to move up in the company, later on as my career winds down. There's a lot of things. It's back to being more of a family type unit, and that's what I wanted to be part of. And then Bill Chrisman and I have had a relationship for a long time, since the mid '90s, and ultimately they own Global, even though at least for the moment we're separate, and that all played a part into it too.
And are you pretty much involved in the ball? How to say ball? I'm
involved
in the ball making. Do you come with an idea? Okay, I want a ball, this type of ball, rolling like this and shaped like this, and you tell them and they do, or do you have own ideas?
A little of both. I've been involved on both sides. I did some where I basically picked cover stocks and mixed them together with different cores and got involved in some of the test balls. Lots of times we'll have an idea, but the Tour Preferred line specifically, I'm very involved in that line within our.
That's the Badger line, right?
That's the Badger line. That's like the Booyah line. Originally it was a Drift. But those are balls that, hey, we have these stock catalog balls, and there'll be, once one of those balls goes, it has a 2 or 3 ball line. And so you kind of have an idea where you fit in the overall. I go, the tagline is performance for your game. And that fits me because I want something for all the conditions too. And so, for all the different things that we see. So I go, hey, we have a really good volatility here. We got really good here. We need a ball that's, long and angular. Okay, those Badger line. Hey, we need a urethane ball. Well, this turned into a Booyah. And they've done a great job of moving those things around. So sometimes I just set the targets where we are. sometimes they'll have their idea, and I'll go, hey, what if we put this cover and core together, and it will make it into the test.
Okay.
And then when we test, then hey, sometimes that's the right ball, and sometimes those guys that are really smart, they're better at than I am.
Yes. So,
but the difference is with us is that the players are making a lot of the decisions on the final balls.
Okay.
And part of the problem was at Ebonite is at the end is the guy that was developing the ball was telling us that ball was great,
and it
even
wasn't.
though, and it wasn't, and we just got tired of trying to keep fighting like it's just not, and we have to make changes, and nobody wanted to admit we needed to make changes, and so that made it time for me.
Yep, I understand that. And that's cool. Will Linda play the PWBA again?
It looks like not. She hasn't thrown a ball in almost 2 years now. She's actually starting to talk about it just a little bit about picking up a ball again and throwing it a little bit. But her thing was hashtag all out.
Okay. So pretty much retired.
Pretty much, yeah. Once she decided to retire from the PWBA tour, being such a goal-oriented person, and she's had injuries pile up over the years between her back. She's had shoulder surgery. She had wrist surgery. So there's a fair amount of pain that goes along with bowling on a regular basis. And to go through that pain to go bowl, the coffee league with some of her friends, some of that really wasn't really that worth it. And then once you're not bowling that practice stuff in between, then bowling things like the Lucy tournament that Burgett won with Sterner and some of those things, those fall away too because you're not sharp anymore. So obviously she's been great for decades, and her game has remained relatively unchanged, and her balance and her her base game's been so good for so long. If she decides to come back, it won't take very long, but for now it doesn't look like it.
Okay. So Thomas asked, so we do have Sean Rush as special guest, Manuel. I'm working on that. Francisca, she's a youth national team player. She asked, wie bereitet sich auf ein wichtiges Turnier vor und wie bereitet sich kurz bevor es beim Spielen? How do you prepare for a very important tournament? And how do you prepare shortly before you start bowling?
I have a ramp-up period before big tournaments where it's about 3 weeks total for me. A lot of process, a lot of getting my base game and my upper body really still. Not much of this, not a lot of this. Getting that really steady, and then and getting my swing straight, my footwork good, and my balance really on spot. And at that point, you start really narrowing down accuracy things, and then you add in the versatility pieces to go along with it, speed changes, hand changes, and then the last week, it's really about putting the balls together and making sure that you have ball that go ideally each ball in the same pattern will go like 3 feet longer than the one before it.
Okay.
And so you can follow transitions, and that's kind of how I put it together for before I go out on tour, and then for something like US Open, where they're going to be really hard. It's really tightening my game up and making everything shorter and more compact with less movement.
Okay. And directly before you play bowling, before you go into the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, in the moments before, in the 15, 20, 30 minutes before, I have to do stretching and band work all the time now because of my back and hip. So, I do that at night anyway, but then I just do a lot of stretching in the 15, 20 minutes before we get started to make sure everything's loose, and then I'm as close to being ready to go 100% when we start as possible.
Okay. So, Francisca, I hope this helps with this answer. So,
good question.
Yes, it is. So now we figured out, what do you think about 15 pounds, 16 pounds, 14 pounds? Do you think there is a big difference? We saw when in the shop, especially in the two-piece balls, for example, Flux or Badger line, you have a huge difference between 14 and 15 pounds, for example, with a lot of effect. And we had the situation that a lot of players here in this area play 14 pounds, and you don't have the same reaction in the 14 pounds balls compared to the 15 pounds, because the 15 pounds have a lot of more differential and why? I know it's because of the two-piece system, but why do you bring out a 14-pound ball when it's so? It impacts a lot.
Yeah, it still has a place, but it fits in a different place. And even the 16s for I still throw 16 pounds, and so for 16, the Badger line actually was a middle ball, a strong middle ball. In 15, and I actually started carrying both 15 and 16 because they were enough different that I would use 16 as the middle ball, and I would use 15 as a dry angular ball. Okay. And then the 14s obviously go below that. And it was an issue sometimes. For 14s especially, it became basically a drier, mostly or maybe only a dry lane ball. And so we had to address that issue, and that's where the Honey Badger Extremes came in, and you basically went away from the two-piece design back to the three-piece design, so you get the RG numbers back, and so the 14-pounders and 15-pounders and 16-pounders were much closer. For me, not as much of an advantage as the 16-pounder because those numbers end up much closer, but for 14 and 15, you got a ball that was much lower RG. Combined with a little bit stronger cover with it, and that lets you have a ball that was much better for medium conditions.
Okay. Do you think it's a big difference between 15 and 16 pounds, or is there just impact wise, or?
I think when you have angle and you have traction in the back of the lane, it's pretty small. Okay. I think when there's a lot of oil down lane or carry down lane, or if you're playing smoother angles, like say with urethane, that's when you notice the extra weight.
Okay.
And if you're creating 4.5 degrees of entry angle or 5 degrees of entry angle, like a lot of the two-handers are, not a big deal. Yeah. That being said, in Europe, it's so much easier to get 15-pound balls.
Yeah.
That having access to all the equipment and any ball you want, I think probably makes 15 a pretty big advantage.
Okay. So I put down a couple of more questions. So but I go to Thomas. He asked, do you think the two-handed style has revolutionized the game? Because nowadays everybody is having more rotation than years ago. One-handers as well. Or was it just natural improvement of the sport at all?
Yeah, I mean, two-handed is where power has never been at a disadvantage. If you can control the accuracy of it, it's always been a big advantage. And so, two-handed is hard to control the accuracy of it, but the guys that do it well are instantly becoming, the guys to beat, because just like in a golf ball, you can hit it 340 yards, and if you can find it, you're going to be in a better shape than the guy who hits it 270 or 280.
That's
and
true.
So, yeah, I mean, I get it. It's easier to learn now than it ever has been because the house conditions, at least in the U.S., are so easy that you don't throw it in the gutter. It doesn't go everywhere while you're learning how to play. You still get to strike sometimes at the beginning because there's so much room. And I think that helps the learning curve for sure.
Yep. It's different here. I think that the house shots here are a little bit tougher than in the States, but it's not a lot.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes it harder to learn at the beginning. It's a little more discouraging, and but ultimately, a lot of the best two-handers are coming out of Europe too. So I don't think that's an accident either.
Yeah, I think that's the same. I think. So now I have when I start preparing me for today, I found something that before bowling you were a pretty good mini golf player, putt. So you actually played in the TV final of a professional tournament in 1989.
Correct.
How does it come?
How?
Yeah, you just started mini golf and you were that good.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like everything. That's a learned skill. I mean, you can be somewhat good at it, but basically, you know, my mom was working at a nursery, a garden store, sold plants and trees and things like that, and they sponsored a small golf hole at this community place that had a little par 3 golf course, and 2 putt-putt courses and a goofy golf course. And so I would take the passes. She would drop me off before work and pick me up after work. And my friend and I would go out there and we'd play like 27 holes of the par 3 and play putt-putt all day long and run around. I didn't know anything about it, but they had a tournament on Wednesday nights, and I was still out there before she picked me up when they showed up to start practicing for the tournament. And these guys were good, and I was running around there, and they didn't know I wasn't playing some of the right shots, but I was making a fair amount of hole-in-ones, and they were like, huh. And so they told me about it, and then they kind of, oh, you have to have, you know, a certain ball, and there's a standardized thing, and then they had one of the regional tournaments there at that same course, and I got lucky and won the match play part of it to get a spot into the big final and things. So I got a spot in the final 32-man bracket, and then I ended up finishing like 3rd, and that's kind of how it all started. So at 14, I started playing tournaments, and 15, I turned pro, and let's see, I was 19 then when I made that TV show where you had to win a city championship, and then you win the regional.
Yep.
All of the city champions go and they play to win, and then we were in Region 9, and I won Region 9, and then I went and played on that TV show, and that show was about 6 months before I made the bowling TV show with Marshall Holman and Mark Roth and Lisa Wagner. But pretty cool thing.
Yeah, that's your with the big glasses.
Yeah, the Clark Kent specs.
Yeah, and so, you ref it up at this time. Back
you
then,
what?
You have a lot of refs there in these times for these days compared to today. Yeah. It was a lot different. Your feet were much faster.
My feet were much faster. My rev rate actually wasn't all that much different, but when you measure it out, but relative to everyone else,
yeah.
I was in the low 400s then. I was 420s, you know, maxed out at 450, somewhere around 400. And now when I go to the training center, I'm still at 400 to 424. But it certainly seems like a lot less to me too, because everyone else around me, you know, when Tommy came out there and it went to 475, and then, you know, and then the next group came out, and, you know, now Tommy he's the power tweener at 475, and you have all those guys over 500 that are two-handed. And
you have Robert Smith.
And, we had Robert, and we had Rudy. Yep. You had a handful, but not that many, and they struggled with accuracy, much like a lot of two-handers do. And then we had a couple of guys that got good at it, you know, and could play all the time, and that's what Jason has done. And you know, he doesn't have the highest rev rate on tour, but he is the best touch and the best repetition of any of the two-handers, and that's certainly anybody with his type of power. I think just calling it two-handed is probably a disservice. You know, but anybody with that type of power, he's as accurate with as good a touch as anybody that's ever played.
But pretty much Osku was the first guy who'd been successful in the States with the two-handed style, right?
Yeah, I was on that show at the U.S. Open when he made the show,
yep.
And he was like 19 years old. And even then, we knew about Jason, and we knew he and Jason were bowling on a lot of those EBT finals against each other. And for the most part, we just felt like Osku was going to be the better player. He was more athletic. He could throw it harder. He could do a few more things at the time. And certainly he can still throw a lot harder than Jason can.
Yeah.
Jason's actually the other way. He's gone to where he took the hop out of his approach. So his overall max ball speed kind of came down a little bit, which makes it a little tougher for him on the short patterns. But it made him so much better on everything from 30, 38 feet on that he'll live with just having to survive on the cheetah and then just beat our brains in on everything else.
So one other thing, what would you do if you could start your bowling career again? What would you change? Would you change
today?
If you know it today, and what would you change if you could restart, go back in time and start again with your knowledge what you have today?
Well, I think ideally, I'd like to be able to throw it two-handed. You know, anything that increases the overall ceiling. I think, you know, I guess I wouldn't mind have learned how to be two-handed earlier. You know, I was such a late starter. I didn't go on tour till I was 28. I might have started sooner, although, and really, I wouldn't change any of that part. Getting to travel the world and bowling on Team USA, and that's how I met Linda and how I got together. So I wouldn't really trade that part. I think probably what I would do though is, you know, I mean, we didn't know about two-handed back then. You know, but if I had to go back now, I try and think about how much more dominant you could be if you were just left of everybody all the time like that.
Yeah.
If you can make it, you know, perform it to the right level and still be able to throw with your thumb in it the rest of the time. So that anytime you played, you know, straighter or like that, I think that's probably the ultimate versatility, is being able to do both.
To play one-handed when you need on shorter pennants, and to play two-handed when you need the rough rate.
Yeah.
So yeah. like a Jason Mahaney, Eugene McEwen mix.
Yeah, basically, if I could do you know, even 80 to 90% of what he does, you know, and then still be able to play right up third arrow, you know, doing what I do now, I would have liked to have that combination available.
Yes, it would be pretty much good. Would be pretty good. So, and what are you? We already talked about the goals in bowling, and so I have this. Then we have also some questions here.
Yeah, maybe my overall goals is just to be as successful in the pro shops as you are. So,
you have pro shops now?
No, I don't. No, but I just want to be a successful businessman like you.
Oh, I try my best, but at the moment it's pretty hard to have our own business.
It's maybe not the right time. Maybe we'll wait a little bit.
Yeah, maybe 3-4 months to restart everything. But I remember back when we met the first time 10 years ago at the World Men's here. Oh man, I was really messed up. When we met, I was so... for 2 weeks, it was just ball drilling. And you were the guy who brings your own drill bit with you. I remember, I think it was when Quitter wrote me, hey, do you have 16 pounds white dot for Chris in the shop? And I said, I don't know. So then we get some, and then I need to drill it for you. And you were like, okay, here are my drill bits. And I was like, oh my God, a bowler who has his own drill bits. So that was pretty... You're still to today, you're the only guy who brings their own drill bit.
Well, now it's pretty tough because you can't take them on the plane. So, you know, that part's changed a little bit. But yeah, you know, I learned that from back in the 90s, and that's kind of where the thumb molds came, because nobody could copy a thumb hole, or they could, but everybody has their own way and their own unique part, and the drill bits, you know, you wish they were the same everywhere, but they're not always. And, you know, in that time when I was talking with you, there was interchangeable thumbs, and not everybody had that system back then, for sure. And so, yeah, you just learn how you try and make the equation as easy as possible. Back when it was thumb molds, that certainly made things easier, because at least you knew your thumb was going to fit. And now this interchangeables, you know, the Vice ITs are, you know, make it super easy for me to switch and get balls drilled basically anywhere.
So this Bruno asked, I just test the people something in German. Karen, seine Kinder spielen auch Bowling. So your childs play bowling. One is one-handed, one is two-handed. Also einer ist einhändig und einer ist zweihändig. So, and then, is there somebody in the PBA plays both one-handed and two-handed that you know?
There's a few people that can. Doherty is actually one that for a while, before everybody started using urethane on the short patterns, he would put his thumb in it to play on the wolf pattern.
I remember here at the Euro Challenge when Marshall destroys his thumb in the first or second squat he bowled, and then he made the cut with two hands.
Marshall's really good at two-handed.
Yeah.
I mean, Marshall's good enough to like. It would be hard, as good as he is at hooking it with his thumb in it, but he throws it really good with his thumb not in it. You know, obviously Walter's tried it.
Yeah, I just read Walter Ray. Sometimes he plays two-handed on PBA 50.
Yeah, he does. He tries it on the guys tour, but his rev rate's still, even when he goes two-handed, his rev rate's
too low.
Barely. It's barely mine, and mine's not high enough, you know, to really move in when he wants to do it. So, and then he loses his other advantages of touch and some of his control things that, you know, obviously are the hallmark of his career. So, but on the PBA 50 side, I think it allows him to be left of the field and do that a little bit more, and the conditions are a little softer on that side.
But it will get tougher the next years when guys like you come to the 50s.
We'll see. Everybody says that. He's still, you know, one of in the conversation of the top 2 or 3 of all time for a reason. So,
yeah. So then I have another question in the chat, and I will combine this with my question. Okay. You have 55 perfect games in the PBA. Is it still accurate?
Okay.
Maybe? Okay.
It's pretty, yeah, I don't know. I don't keep track, but if they say so, that's probably right.
Okay. So how many you throw in your life in competition? You know that?
I stopped keeping track a while ago, but I kind of tried to keep an estimate. And I think it's in the 130s range.
Okay. Do you remember every 300 game?
No, not anymore. No.
And what was
I used to keep a list when I was younger. You know, I kept a list of all the ones they were and where they were at, and about 25 or so I stopped keeping track, and that was well before tour. So.
And what was your most important 300 that you recognize? Was it?
There's a couple of them that were really cool. I mean, obviously the 300 I shot on TV in front of with my family there. That was pretty special.
Yeah. I can imagine.
You know, that was probably the funnest one. The most profitable one was the one in Japan on TV. That was for like 40-some thousand.
Okay, that's pretty good. That's solid.
yeah, that was a good one. Probably one of the hardest ones I shot was at, aside from the shark pattern one, was in Malaysia. We used to bowl at the old Kent Bowl, and 6 games on the same pair, and I shot 300 in like game 2 or 3, and I'm not sure I shot 1,300, or barely shot 1,300 with the 300. They were really hard. I won a piano for shooting 300 there. So that was
not a bad deal. So piano can be expensive.
It didn't fit in overhead though, so it was tough to get back.
Okay. So then I'm pretty much done with my questions I prepared, but I have some quick ones. So I just ask, and it's just short answers.
Before you get started, that white dot you drilled for me, I used that for about 6 or 7 years between that and stayed over in Europe, and I used it for the Weber Cup all the time. So I used that ball for a long time. It was once somebody of your caliber drilled it, I couldn't ever give it away.
Yeah, that's nice to hear, and that's pretty cool. So yeah, actually by now for the last 10 years we drill a lot of balls for really good players like you and Tommy and Osku, and I don't know, there's so many guys. It's pretty cool to be in Europe and be this with this guests in the shop. So not a lot of pro shops in Europe have this resume. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and they all know you and they all trust you. You do a good job.
So thank you. I appreciate it. So now I have some quick questions. What is your favorite food?
Italian.
Italian food. So, and your favorite beverage?
Probably an Arnold Palmer, which is tea and lemonade mixed together.
Okay. Your biggest win?
U.S. Open.
Your biggest fail?
Probably the Tournament of Champions.
If you have $1 billion now, what would you do?
If I had one what?
1 billion? Yeah.
Well, that's a great question. I never thought about that because I bowl for a living. I don't have to worry about that. I think I would, we would help support the sport from the ground level up with youth college tournament, colleges and professional side of things that you would set that up to be successful for a long time.
Okay. What is your idol in the youth?
Rick Steelsmith was the guy I wanted to bowl like.
And what is your idol now?
Jason Mahaney, I think.
Okay. Your biggest supporter?
Linda.
Your best buddy on tour?
Tommy Jones.
That was a pretty funny story yesterday. I wrote him with WhatsApp. Hey, do you want to join in one of my streams? And yeah, we can do next Sunday. Just call me 10 minutes before, and when I'm at home, I can join. What? I need to plan this. That was pretty funny. So
he plays golf every day. Yeah, I can't even get him nailed down for the Beef and Barnesy show. So,
you can't get him, right?
He canceled on us because we're in the afternoon there, and he plays golf in that time. So,
yeah,
he's big time in me.
Your favorite sports besides bowling?
Basketball.
Basketball. So you're a big fan. Also NBA.
More college than NBA, but I'm a fan of all of it. But yeah, I played high school basketball. I almost went to college and played basketball instead of bowling. That probably would not have been a very good choice.
So we are still a lot of viewers in the stream, but I'm pretty much worked out every question. Do you want to ask something to the people, or is there anything you want to say?
I want to thank everybody for showing up, and in this time, it's a new time all the way around. So, hopefully this will be over soon, and we all get a chance to go out and play a sport that we love. So
yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, be safe.
Yeah,
be smart, stay healthy, stay home, and then when it comes back, support the small businesses. They're the ones that are going to be struggling the most after this time off. So I know a lot of us are struggling as well. But if you have the opportunity to support the small businesses that they're going to need your help when things get started back up.
Yep, that's the same. I say support the pro shops. Support it's bowling or not. Just support the small businesses. Yeah. They will die. If we don't.
The local restaurants, the mom and pop stores, that's kind of what we call them. But basically the small businesses, the Walmarts of the world are going to survive. But the small business, that's a lot of them have everything they own is involved in that business, and if without your help on the way back, they'll be gone.
So. Pretty much. There's one last question from Maximilian. He is the winner of the last questions. How much fun is doing the Flying Eagle?
Well, it's a lot of fun when you make it. Yeah.
But when you don't make it, you need a lot of shots.
You need, and then you have to go set it up and crawl under the machine and do all this other stuff. That's not. Yeah, I don't have any fun at all doing that.
But to make it, it's really funny. Yeah.
It is. I was lucky that Johnny Petraglia showed me that shot, and I think Andy Varapapa showed him that shot. So the real way to do it, you have a right-hander on one lane, a left-hander on the other lane, and you both go, and then the pinch cross in the air, and
okay,
and you do it. That's a cool way to do it. But for the skill shot thing, when we did that, that didn't really work, and so it got renamed and repurposed a little bit. But without Johnny Petraglia's help, I would never know how to do that shot.
Yep. So Sandro just wrote in, if you want to play National League in Germany, just call me.
Yeah.
Not him.
You got a spot?
Yeah, we have space for you, so it's no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You only charge me a little bit?
Yeah, just you have to pay your flight by your own. I pay the hotel.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's pretty, no problem. Yeah. So actually, I really appreciate your time. It's an honor that you be on our show and be our guest. And I think the people like it a lot that you've been here, and they writing a lot of stuff in the chat. And we also watch your show with Beef and you. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, turn into that when you get a chance. I know the time is not great, but I think we're going to be moving back 1 hour, which might help a little, not a lot, but that'll move it back to 9 p.m. For you. But
yeah, that's pretty much
yeah,
11.
you know.
Oh no, is it 9 p.m. Eastern or what is it?
No, it'll be 9 p.m. your time.
Mine. Yeah,
right.
But that's okay.
Yeah, right now it's 10 p.m. But Storm has put some other stuff up on the same time, and so I think we're going to move back 1 hour just to play nice with everybody.
Yeah.
And you know, but hey, thanks for letting me come on too. You know, if your fans would like to tune into our show, that's great. You know, we kind of let that fake European guy be part of that show. As far as being on your show, thank you. Anything for our friends. And I love what you're doing here. You know, a lot of us just want something bowling-wise and have a little bit of fun and kind of escape the quarantine that's going on right now.
Yeah,
so.
I hope it will be done pretty soon. So thank you very much. And vielen Dank, liebe Leute, fürs Zuschauen. Ich hoffe, euch hat's gefallen. I hope you all enjoy the conversation, and we all thanks to Chris, and I hope we see us soon. So thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. God
say
bless.
Say hello to Linda.
Will do. Say hello to your wife. You married up too.
Yeah, thank you. I will. Okay, have a good one. Bye bye.
All right, thank you. Bye.